channel. On the flip side of this is my buddy Brad. I'll let him take over a little bit here on this and explain a little bit more about the channel and what we're going to be doing here. All right. So, in recent news, something that Brad and I here have been discussing is the fact that they are online talking about the Atari Box. It seems like it's all over the place. There's been a few other YouTubers that have already kind of covered this information. So this isn't really anything new that we're bringing you information-wise. This is really just to kind of put out our opinions on the comical satire that is Atari potentially making a console. It was kind of something that we struck a discussion with last night and wanted to kind of further elaborate on how we've both come to the conclusion that if they really are making a console, this is kind of the most insane thing that I have yet to hear in the history of gaming at any point. Brad, what's your honest take on it, man? If Atari comes out and says, yes, that short 15-second preview we put out was for a new console, for new hardware, I guess question number one, do you think they even stand a chance in the market? So kind of like the younger end of the millennial generation there would maybe just be like, I've never even seen Atari, or, you know, I've heard it spoken of once or twice in my life, but have no clue.
I've heard it whispered in myths.
Yeah, and you know, you said it yourself right there with it. You know, it's funding. Who is funding this? Who is backing this? Who, if that is the case? And that's a fair point. Is Infinity Ward or Treyarch or DICE or Square Enix, you know, are these money-making developers going to even port their games to this console? So you'd like to see it just come out of the ashes, just rise up like a fucking phoenix and just be like, I am the Atari Box and I am better than all? Fair enough. Realistically, that very much does not, in my opinion, seem to be the case, especially this early on. But with that being said, I do agree with you. Like, how crazy would that be? How long would people talk about that if Atari did come up out of the grave and compete with or even beat out Sony and Microsoft? I mean, that would literally be the biggest thing to ever happen in gaming. And I would like to see it, but I don't know, man. Well, Nintendo would definitely be one that I feel that they would have to beat out in the long run. But just based on the rumor mill that I have heard, it sounds like if they're getting into, as they said, back into the hardware game, I don't think their intention would be to keep up with somebody like Nintendo really to begin with. I think that they would be going more for graphical components, multiplayer games, the big ticket items that sometimes Nintendo kind of overlooks, and in a way has brought along a lot of their own downfall by overlooking. And that could be one of their only saving graces if they do put out a halfway decent console, is that they have years and years and years of just watching the gaming industry kind of from the sidelines. I mean, yes, they're still active in it in their own right, but not in the sense of what we're talking about now. So they've kind of gotten active time on the sidelines to say, okay, well, this worked for Microsoft, or well, that fucked up for Sony, or that just bankrupt Nintendo. You know, they've got a lot of time to like look into that, and hopefully if they were setting up this new idea for a console, they've done their research on what flopped and what worked. Right, and that's one thing where, again, this is all speculation, this is all, but it was stated somewhere in another YouTuber's video that there was a direct quote somewhere in an interview with one of the members from Atari in their corporate offices and whatnot, that they had been working on it for, I believe he said, and don't quote me on this, honestly don't quote me, I believe he said somewhere for around 10 to 12 years, which, if that's the case, that's great that they've been considering it and putting that much time and effort into it and everything, but does that mean that we're going to get a product 10 to 12 years in the making that, kind of like Microsoft and Sony did, they released technically outdated products? I know it's been labeled the Scorpio. I think now it's the 1X. And that's very true. I think there's been this major rush to catch up to the PC gaming industry in general from all three companies in their own right. Nintendo a little bit less because they're a little more quirky and tend to stick to their own kind of agenda. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely, and it's a constant argument amongst the gaming community, you know, is the PC master race or console, you know, and I don't really like that because they're one and the same. Like, either way, your gaming. Like, basically the only thing that you have to argue on the PC side is mods and graphic capability. And there's something for me that I just enjoy kind of having that all-in-one feel. I like having my console be my DVD player, you know, occasionally be my internet browser, be this, that, and the other, which understandably the PC can do as well. But how many people do you know that have a PC plugged up in their living room as their operating system? You know, most people have their PC in a side room or at a desk. It's not like their fixture for their home entertainment system. And I think that's where these consoles kind of take the cake on that. You know, in Microsoft, especially with the Xbox One, they advertise themselves from day one specifically as the all-in-one console, as the all-in-one package. So, and that's another thing that you could, again, question with this potential Atari console. Are they going to take the route of Nintendo and skip out on that for other purposes, to save space, to save memory, to save up on money? Or are they going to go into the realm of, like, we want this to be your DVD player, web browser, Netflix machine, you know? And that's true too. And I almost wonder if they would try to release on a digital only approach, since there have been major talks about that being in the works for many companies anyway. It does seem very far-fetched, and I feel like if they are really doing something, I feel like the final product that we're going to get, if it goes towards the better side, you know, not on the downswing. If it goes towards the downswing, a completely different situation. But if it's on the upswing when they release, I feel like what we're going to get is kind of like what you said with the PC debate thing. You know, you're going to get a console that is more closely relatable to a PC. I feel like it's going to be primarily on a download basis. I feel like you're going to have some kind of Steam access or something similar to Steam. I feel like it's going to be very, very much along the lines of what PC is running, and I also believe that it'll probably come out mouse and keyboard compatible. I don't know anybody that would want to start up a company or start up something and make money that would really follow Nintendo's marketing scheme, because while they're still a major player and they're by no means, you know, out of the game, they have done things and made mistakes along the way that other businesses would have said, you didn't see that coming? You know, things that Sony and Microsoft would have never done. So I don't know that anybody would really necessarily follow this model, because Nintendo's the only one that it's ever worked for. Oh, there could be multiple videos on Nintendo and their processes and where they stand, because by and large I would say that, maybe with the exception of the Switch being a new big thing right now, largely their handhelds sell better money-wise than their consoles do at this point. I mean, they're making way more money off the Mario games and the Pokemon games on handheld than they are off their last gen or current gen Wii consoles. I I can only hope that that would not be the route that really anybody would go. I mean, Sony tried, and they didn't by any means make a bad product with the PSP and the PS Vita. It did have its legitimacy, its right to be a portable gaming device. And I feel like if that was the major option on the market, it would have done better. Developers would have put more money into making games for it. People look at the system as bad because it died off, but there wasn't development being put into the games for it. That was a major problem. And I just feel like everybody watched that happen and kind of just went, Nintendo has cornered that market so perfectly that it would almost be ignorant to try to combat that at this point, I feel. Okay, let's go into possibility here, because there hasn't been any confirmation. This is all obviously speculation, just based on the short clip, the website. So let's go the route of none of this was ever about a new console. What are potential factors from there, or I should say roads from there, that we could go down as far as what they're speaking of? Because I haven't even really thought into that one myself, and until I just posed that question, honestly. And if it's not console related, I wonder what they do mean by hardware. And that's a possibility too. That's something I didn't maybe, and I think actually no, you may have kind of touched on that last night, that maybe it'll release as kind of like an indie box. Like the space where you can get all your indie games and they're put on there for cheap, or the developers have a little bit of space to go to Atari and be like, hey, other publishers won't really accept us, but you guys will. That's awesome. Let's work with you. And that would be cool with me if they put it out at a relatively nice price that wasn't trying to compete with Microsoft and Sony base price wise. I think that could be a neat route to see some kind of indie console come out and really let the developers the world hasn't seen have a space to go. Yes, most certainly. And I'm going to have to fact check myself on this, get on my phone here in just a second, and do that once this round is over here. Because I could be way off base by saying this, but I believe that information was dropped at E3. I have not. I'm actually looking that up right now. That's one of the things about doing these live feeds is that you've got to kind of check yourself as you go here. Everything's kind of unfiltered, unedited at this point. So, yep, IGN.com, E3 2017, Atari teases new game console called Atari Box. I don't know. Again, I haven't seen anything other than that tagline that says that it has been confirmed that they're teasing a new console, but that is what IGN's direct website, as of a few days ago, was updated to. So it was dropped and announced at E3. So that is the one and only reason that I will say this is not a hoax, is because of where the information was released. Um, Yeah, I would have to get on and see if another YouTuber somewhere has gotten that information, or if it's been posted by someone who was at E3, as to maybe whether there was or not, if there was a conference, or if they just randomly dropped a fucking trailer somewhere and people were like, "What?" It is. It's very odd, and I don't know, I wouldn't call this part of their marketing campaign just yet. I mean, in its own right, it was a marketing ad. Yes, I get that, but I'm very interested to see if this is a console, what they're going to do with that marketing campaign, where it is going to go from that point. Because I don't think they have the funding to put out enough commercials or enough radio ads or ads on YouTube to really push it out there to sell it to enough people. I think a lot of people are going to be like, I'm not buying that, or I'll wait for a friend to buy it. But if everybody says I'll wait for a friend to buy it, nobody's friend's going to own it. They could get away with $600 if they made a $600 console, I feel like. But the thing is, they've, like we've discussed, they've been out of it for so long. They've been out of the game for so long that who's going to put their faith in it? Like, yeah, I'm going to buy that $600 Atari console. I've got faith. They could rightfully charge that. They would insanely out. They would have to go so far out of their way to prove that it was worth $600 that they would spend more in marketing than I feel like they would make back.
quality for a $600 price tag, in my opinion. I wouldn't pay that for unknown calling machine, unless I was like filling in basic stuff. This is like 2,000 years in the future type stuff, I don't know, man. Seriously, I'm thinking about entering my email on the website just to get updates. But
Just to stay up to date on it, yeah.
everybody, everybody in the comments when this video is over, let us know your opinion on the issue.
Yeah, that's another thing too that would be really cool to see is like feedback from other people, what their take on it is, if they think that this is going to work, if they think that this is something that is just completely outrageous. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm definitely interested to see where it would go. I feel like this is a subject that we're probably going to touch up again on at some point. Probably in the relatively near future. I would say that they're probably going to give out some more information here before too long if they're asking people to sign up for an email page at this point. But Brad, unless you have anything else to add to it, man, I think we'll keep this video like relatively short. I'm not sure exactly how long we've gone here, but I think we'll kind of end on that note. Yeah.
I just want to say one more thing. We're both on PSN. Uh, my name is Final Fantasy Freak. That's capital F, lowercase Freak 1771 PSN. So hit me up, leave me a comment and a message when you saw this video, and let us know if you're watching. We appreciate it. You want to give your name?
Yep. It's DGBP-ELITE. I know a lot of people that would be coming into this channel may not know that. I've got another channel I run off of, so I just kind of tend to act like people know that. I really shouldn't do that, given that this is our first video on a new channel. But yeah, PSN, if you guys play, doesn't really matter what. I'll probably be able to find common games with you guys. It's DGBP-ELITE, all capital letters. So hit either one of us up. We'll add you guys. And I think that about wraps it up, Brad. So hit us up in the comments, guys. Give us a like, subscribe, whatnot, all that good shit. And we'll cut the video out there. I'll see you guys later.